But yeah, I have about a 2-pound ball here. The inside bowl, which I threw first, is about 1 pound. So I'm just gonna get it in the center as best I can. This is wedged up clay, so I've woken it up. And then you're just gonna start with kind of a liberal amount of water. And this first motion just kind of comes from my core. And I'm kind of wrapping everything in and up. And my first thought is gonna be kind of down. So I'm grounding the clay in and I'm pushing down. And my major points of contact when I'm centering are kind of this diamond. So this area right here, this area here, and here. I'm gonna re-wet my hands. I want a lot of movement. So those 4 points of contact, and I'm just kind of squeezing in and down to get that really nice secure connection to the bat. Now I'm gonna start to bring this up. I'm gonna start to cone. So you can kind of think about it as a push with this meaty part of your hand and kind of a pull with your fingertips. You don't really have to change your hands, just like wherever they fall naturally. And then I'm pushing that clay inwards and I'm just kind of sliding my hands upward instead of pulling the clay up, right? It's inwards with this grounding, always a grounding kind of beginning, and then just sliding up. And your thumbs are at the top to kind of push that clay and keep it centered. I have my cone. I'm gonna re-wet it so my hands don't stick to the clay at all. And my left hand's gonna hang out here at 9 o'clock. My right hand's gonna come down here. And once again, I'm gonna try and use this really strong part of my hand. And I'm just going to kind of connect my hands, whatever that looks like to you. If they're kind of existing separately, it's gonna be a little bit harder to get that stability and that strength to push down. So I'm gonna kind of hold my hands together and push down. My left hand is unmoving. My right hand is that anchor down. And you can play with, you know, having your hand like this, having your hand like this. You can keep a loaded sponge in your right hand and kind of just squeeze whenever you need a little bit of water. That's kind of one of my favorite ways to do it. But just experiment with a bunch of different hand formations, whatever feels good with you and your body. So now I have this disc, and now I'm just gonna start to think about, you know, what I'm making. So I wanna like, just remind myself I'm making a nesting bowl. And for what I'm doing, this kind of manipulation on the wheel and off the wheel, I'm gonna need thicker walls. So I'm already reminding myself I don't want paper thin walls. I want a little bit of extra wiggle room to kind of pinch and manipulate the clay. So I'm thinking about that. This is the measurement I took from my other bowl when it was spinning on the wheel when it was done. So these are the furthest points. So I want to make sure that the inside of this bowl is at least that big, if not a little bigger. So I'm gonna just keep my calipers here, make this a little bit bigger. So just by pressing down, and now that's a little bit bigger. And I think that's gonna be pretty good. I'm just gonna keep checking that and err on the side of a little extra room. So now I'm gonna start to open this. My thumbs find the natural center and I push down, add a little water. I'm also aware that I'm not going to be trimming this the traditional way on the wheel. I'll probably be using a rasp or a cheese grater or kind of different techniques like that. So I'm reminding myself that it's not going to be super thick on the bottom. I want it to be kind of just like at a 1/4 inch. So I'm about that much, maybe like 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna make it a little bit thinner. So knowing what your piece is going to be before you're making it is really gonna give you a head start on all these different kind of check-ins throughout the process, right? So just starting with a sketch or starting with some intention. So I pushed that down a little bit more, and now I'm going to widen it. So I like to keep my left hand at 9 o'clock and my right hand pushing towards my belly at 6 o'clock. And it's kind of this dance between pushing towards myself and down, or maybe lifting up. You're just kind of noticing your tendencies and what they do to the clay. But this left hand is actively pushing in as my right hand is pushing out. So I'm keeping that clay centered, right? I'm not just kind of along for the ride here. This hand is active, on duty, right? So I'm gonna start doing that again, and I'm starting to create that nice contour of a bowl. So I'm starting to allow my hand to kind of slide up. I'm gonna go back to the center, and with one long sweeping motion, pull that clay out, and then just kind of compress the rim by pushing down and kind of pushing together with my left hand. So just checking in. I want my little bowl to fit inside here, so I need to go way wider. So let's just bring this out a little bit more. I'm gonna use my sponge a little bit, and I'm pushing down and towards my body at 6 o'clock. My left hand is kind of working the clay out, kind of in this ripping motion, because I need to get a little bit wider. And then I can kind of compress the rim, pinch your finger and thumb together, sponge down. So pressure in and down. I'm gonna turn down the speed. Speed is your friend, is your ally as you start, and then really I like to work pretty slowly as I start to shape. Needs to be a little wider. So I'm going to start to move to this Mud Tools bowl rubber rib. It's got a little bit of give. It's probably my favorite rib, especially if you're into bowls. It just kind of does that job to give you that beautiful inside contour. So I'm just going to place it right on the inside shoulder there, with my main goal is to just press it out. I want to make this bigger. And so this move might not come naturally to you, but I'm doing the same thing as like when I'm centering. So I'm starting with kind of my core energy, and I'm doing everything I can to keep my rib in one spot. And I'm pressing pretty significantly so that the clay is just going to sort itself out, and it's going to give me a mirror image of this beautiful contour. And that's how I kind of start my bowls, with a lot of intention on the inside rather the outside. So you can see this bowl is kind of falling, or this line is kind of falling just inside. So I'm just going to do it a little bit wider, just for a little room for air. So I'm just going to pull this clay out just a bit. And that motion there, I'm always, especially when I'm low like this, I'm always going to be using my left hand. It's my dominant hand when I'm working kind of 4 inches and under. So I'm just kind of holding, gripping, and kind of moving upwards as I kind of squeeze that clay, allow it to move out on the bottom, and then just squeezing it up, moving slowly and consistently towards the top, and then just gliding off. Getting the calipers and checking that. So the inside I have about, a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch on each side, so about a 1/2 inch of extra wiggle room. So I'm just going to bring it out just a hair more. And each time I bring it out, I'm just really focused on the inside contour and kind of keeping that beautiful slope. And I'm going to go back to this tool here, brace my arms together, working on that inside shoulder and just pressing down. And then I'm going to slide towards the center and really focus on compressing that whole bottom part, especially the middle. And that's about all I want to do. I have my contour. I might bring the wall up just a little bit, so add a little bit of moisture. And at 3 o'clock here, left hand is kind of gripping the whole piece, because my hand can still fit over the side. And I'm just gonna work right here, squeeze in and lightly pull up. I'm not gonna pull that much because I wanna keep thick walls for what I'm doing. So I'm just pulling up slightly, adding a little bit of height, and then floating off. I'm gonna pick up all that extra water, hi there, all that extra slip, that vulnerable clay. It's just nice to remove from the pot. And then I just end with a few rounds of compression, so just pushing down and moving back and forth. Little red rib is great for that too. And this company just got completely taken out by Hurricane Helene, so I mean, it's just devastating. They're like one of my favorite companies, but they have like a GoFundMe and everything. Just if you want to help anyone over there. There's so many potters. But yeah, that's where I'm gonna end. I'm gonna turn the wheel off, and to kind of get that flower shape, I'm just gonna divide the bowl into 5 different sections, and sometimes I just kind of start by going halfway, and then I know I'm gonna need a little bit more. I'm gonna need at least, 2.5 on here, 2.5 on here. Whatever your your fun mind tells you how to do this. I do most things by hand. So I'm just gonna kind of start here and just slowly divide up the space. 4, 5. Let's see here, so a little bit, get rid of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That looks pretty good. Now I'm just gonna start to kind of even them out. This one looks a little long. Make that one a little bit longer. Okay, cool. You can also grab like those snazzy like geometric circles and all that stuff. The banding wheel has a rule of thirds if you wanna take your bat off and put it on there and use the rule of thirds. So I have kind of the space divided out. This always helps me whether I'm doing surface decoration or kind of manipulation. It just helps me kind of focus where I'm gonna work. So where each of these lines are, I'm just gonna kind of compress that a little bit, and now I'm gonna begin the kind of flower design. So similar to kind of making a pie, I'm just gonna focus on these 2 fingers here, kind of holding the clay. Dip your finger in a little water and just kind of push that clay until you get that nice kind of indent forward. Be sure to compress that clay where you made that little line, or you can make maybe a different line. Let's see, compress that, kind of pinching the clay and pushing it, starting from the bottom, always thinking about kind of long, graceful strokes. Compress that little line, and then just kind of moving it forward. I always think of my professor in college who, just saw us making cylinders and was like, just do something with them, So I think of him a lot. The fastest way you'll kind of progress is just by doing something with your pot and seeing how it goes, making mistakes. Mistakes have led me to some of my greatest discoveries. So it's always fun to do that. So now I've got my 5 petals, and you don't have to make a flower shape. You could turn this into a square by doing this. You could turn this into an oval, just whatever you want to do. So now I'm gonna kind of hold these 2 pockets and just kind of make these feel a little bit more natural. They're a little bit squarish right now, so I'm gonna just kind of make them a little bit more natural just by running my finger along there, supporting the two edges. And now I'm just gonna let this set up. Don't sweat the small stuff. All this stuff is gonna be very easy to clean up later on. But always clean your bat off. If you're ending up with kind of chunkier pots, you can always kind of run a needle tool under here. Obviously the shoulder down below is where you're gonna have most of the excess clay. So running it diagonal and then straight, and then you can kind of lift that, just that extra bit of clay off. It's not coming off all at once, so I'm not gonna waste your time, but yeah, just kind of slowly removing that clay. And then just 5 more minutes, I wanna show you what you can do after a little bit of time has passed. Sorry. So right now, this, to me, it doesn't have a lot of body.